I've been in law enforcement for over 22 years. I've seen more death, cruelty, and madness than most people could stomach in a lifetime. Suicides, murders, unsolved disappearances. They leave marks on you that never really heal. But there's one case buried deep in the archives of our department, classified under a deliberately vague, unexplained missing persons code, that I still wake up sweating about. 20 years later, they call it the Hollow Creek Vanisher. But to me, it wasn't a case. It was a nightmare I barely crawled out of alive. It started on a humid summer night in July 2003, when I was a patrol sergeant in the small town of Hollow Creek, North Carolina. We were a quiet jurisdiction. A handful of domestic calls, the occasional drunk driver, maybe a meth bust once a month. Nothing big ever happened there, until that night. Dispatch sent me and Officer Linda Perez out to a welfare check on a dirt road off Highway 61. A woman had called 911 from a payphone, hysterical, screaming something about her boyfriend disappearing into the woods. The line went dead mid-sentence. We traced the call to a place called Old Baxter Road, a stretch of pothole-ridden gravel that led to a dead end near a dried-up creek bed. Hardly anyone lived out there anymore. Most of the houses were abandoned, rotting back into the forest. We didn't know it yet, but we were about to find the first, and only, a piece of evidence in a case that would haunt me for the rest of my life. It was around 10:47 p.m. when we turned onto Baxter. Our headlights cut through thick fog that clung unnaturally low to the ground. I remember thinking how quiet it was. No crickets, no wind, nothing. Just that heavy, wet silence that makes your skin crawl. About half a mile down, we spotted a beat-up blue Honda Civic parked crooked on the roadside. Engine off, driver's door hanging open. The hazard lights blinked weakly in the dark. I stepped out of the cruiser and immediately noticed blood smeared along the driver's seat and door frame. Not a lot, but enough to raise alarms. "Dispatch, this is 2 to 4. We've located the vehicle," I said into my radio. "Requesting backup and EMS. Possible injury, possible abduction." We cleared the immediate area. No sign of a struggle, no footprints, no tire tracks besides the Civics. Perez checked the plates. The car belonged to Daniel Wright, 27, of Hollow Creek. No priors, no outstanding warrants. A clean slate. That's when Perez noticed something else. About 20 feet from the road, half hidden in the tall grass, lay a discarded flip phone. The same model Dispatch said the 911 call came from. I bent down, clicked the screen where the call history showed one outgoing call. 911, timestamp 10:31 p.m. 13 minutes before we arrived, it felt fresh. Like whoever had dropped it had done so only minutes earlier. "Maybe he went into the woods," Perez said, sweeping her flashlight toward the tree line. I didn't like that idea. At night, Baxter Woods was a labyrinth. Overgrown trails, steep ravines, wild animals. If someone was hurt out there, we needed more manpower. But protocol demanded a preliminary sweep, so we went in. The forest swallowed us almost immediately. The canopy so thick even our flashlights barely pierced the darkness. The air was unnaturally cold. I swear every step deeper felt heavier, like the ground itself wanted us to turn back. About 50 yards in, Perez stopped dead. "Do you hear that?" At first I thought she was imagining it, but then I heard it too, a faint rhythmic clicking sound, like metal tapping against wood. Tap, 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 pause, tap, tap, tap. We followed the sound deeper, our lights slicing through twisted branches and slick underbrush. The clicking grew louder, deliberate, almost mechanical, and then we saw it. A wooden cabin, half collapsed and swallowed by vines, sat in a small clearing. I'd driven past Baxter 100 times and never seen it on any map. It was ancient, probably built in the 1800s, with no power lines, no mailbox, nothing to suggest it had been used in decades. The clicking stopped the moment we stepped into the clearing. Perez shone her light at the porch and gasped. A blood-soaked denim jacket hung from a rusty nail by the door. A men's jacket. Inside the pocket, a driver's license, Daniel Wright. We drew our weapons and approached slowly, announcing ourselves. "Police, if anyone's inside, come out with your hands up." No response. Just silence and the creak of the wind nudging the rotten shutters. I pushed the door open. The smell hit us first. Rot, copper, and something sickly sweet. Inside, the cabin looked like a time capsule from a century ago. Old furniture draped in cobwebs. Dust so thick it muffled our footsteps. Then Perez's flashlight swept over something that froze me in place. The back wall was covered in photographs. Hundreds of them pinned in a chaotic mosaic. Most were of missing persons. Newspaper clippings, school portraits, DMV photos, some dating back decades. But others were Polaroids, candid shots. People walking down streets, sitting in their homes, standing at their front doors. One of them was Daniel Wright smiling on his front porch. Another was me from last week. Standing next to my cruiser, I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat. Perez whispered, "What the hell is this?" Before I could answer, that clicking started again. But this time it was coming from inside the cabin. We spun around, weapons raised. The sound was coming from behind a partially open cellar door at the far end of the room. Tap, tap, tap. Pause. Tap, tap, tap. Perez started toward it, but I grabbed her arm. "We wait for backup," I hissed, but she shook her head. "If he's down there, we don't have time." She yanked the door open. The staircase was steep and narrow, leading into a black pit that swallowed our light. The clicking stopped the moment we pointed our flashlights down. I called out again. "Police, if anyone's down there, show yourself." Silence. We descended slowly, step by step, every instinct screaming to get out. The air grew colder, wetter. My breath came out in mist. At the bottom was a stone cellar, maybe 12 feet. It was empty, except for a single wooden chair in the center, a length of chain bolted to the floor beside it, and on the ground near the chair was a fresh pool of blood. No body, no weapon, no sign of struggle, just blood, still warm to the touch. We searched the entire cabin. Nothing. No footprints, no evidence of anyone leaving. When backup arrived 30 minutes later, they brought dogs. The K9s tracked a scent out the back of the cellar, but it ended abruptly in the middle of the woods as if the trail had simply vanished. The forensics team cataloged everything, the photos, the jacket, the blood, but there was no match in any database. The cabin itself wasn't even listed in county records. As far as the state was concerned, it didn't exist. By dawn, the only thing we were sure of was that Daniel Wright was gone. The case consumed me. We searched that forest for weeks, brought in drones, cadaver dogs, even the FBI. Nothing. No body. No trace. Then 6 weeks later, something happened that pushed the whole thing over the edge. At 3:17 a.m., I woke to a knock at my door. When I opened it, no one was there, but hanging from the doorknob was a Polaroid photo. It was Daniel Wright, standing in that same cellar, alive, terrified, staring at something behind the camera. Written in smeared ink at the bottom were 3 words: "You found us." The department sealed the case a week later. Officially, it remains an open investigation. Unofficially, we were told to stop digging. No follow-ups, no interviews, nothing. A month later, the cabin was gone. I don't mean boarded up, I mean gone. The clearing was empty. No foundation, no rubble, not a single nail or brick, like it had never existed. And yet sometimes, when I drive down Baxter Road on night patrol, I see something in the corner of my eye, a faint, warm glow filtering through the trees. And if I pull over and listen very carefully, I swear I can still hear it. Tap, tap, tap. Pause. Tap, tap, tap. I've read plenty of police reports that never made it into the public record. The kind of cases that get scrubbed from databases, sealed under federal jurisdiction, or filed away under layers of bureaucratic noise until they might as well have never happened. But of all those buried nightmares, Red Hollow Motel is the one that still keeps me awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, listening for footsteps that shouldn't be there. I was a detective with the county sheriff's department in 2007. Our town, Meadow Ridge, was the kind of place where violent crime was rare. Domestic disturbances, bar fights, a couple of meth labs, that was about as bad as it got. So when we got a 911 call from a motel clerk screaming about a guest locked in his room and talking to the walls, we figured it was another mental health call, maybe a tweaker, maybe someone off their meds. We were wrong. Dead wrong. It was 2:26 a.m. when my partner, Detective Ron Hendricks, and I rolled up to the Red Hollow Motel, a half-rotted, 2-story roadside dump about a mile outside town. The neon vacancy sign buzzed weakly in the rain, casting a flickering red glow over the parking lot. The clerk, a nervous guy in his 50s, was waiting for us behind the counter, chain-smoking and shaking like a leaf. "He's in room 12, he stammered. "Checked in around midnight, paid cash." Didn't seem off at first, but about an hour ago he started screaming, yelling that something was in the room with him. Then he stopped responding. We asked if he tried unlocking the door. He nodded, wouldn't budge. Like it's jammed from the inside. I glanced at Hendrix. This was already weird. Motel doors jam sometimes, sure, but usually you can still hear movement. According to the clerk, the guy had gone silent for almost 40 minutes. We drew our sidearms and headed down the narrow, mildew-stinking corridor to room 12. The door looked normal, chipped paint, dented brass number plate. But when I pressed my ear against it, I heard something that turned my stomach cold, whispering. Not a single voice, dozens, maybe more, all murmuring in sync, just below the threshold of comprehension. It sounded like a crowd chanting underwater, low, rhythmic, almost hypnotic. Red Hollow PD, I called out. Open the door. No response. Just the whispering, growing louder. We exchanged a look and decided to breach. I counted down from 3 and kicked the door open. It swung inward, and the first thing that hit me was the smell. Damp, moldy air mixed with copper and rot. The stench of something that had been dead for a while. The second thing I noticed was the temperature. It was freezing. At least 30 degrees colder than the hallway, and I could see my breath fogging in the beam of my flashlight. Then we saw the room. It was a wreck. The curtains were shredded, furniture overturned, the lamp smashed. But that wasn't the disturbing part. The disturbing part was the symbols. They were scrawled all over the walls in what looked like dried blood. Circles, spirals, crude shapes I didn't recognize. Some were painted in overlapping layers like they'd been redrawn dozens of times. And in the center of the room, crouched on the threadbare carpet, was a man, naked, emaciated, rocking back and forth. His eyes were wide, pupils blown so large they swallowed the iris. He didn't even react when we entered. He just stared at the wall and whispered over and over in a raspy voice. They said they would come through. We approached slowly, announcing ourselves again. He didn't flinch, didn't acknowledge us at all. I knelt beside him and gently tried to pull his hand away from the wall. That's when I realized he hadn't drawn the symbols. His fingernails were torn and bloody, not from painting, but from scratching. And the lines carved into the plaster weren't paint at all. They were etched into the wall itself. Deeply. It looked like something had been trying to come out of the wall. We secured the man, later identified as Ethan Caldwell, a 34-year-old accountant from Raleigh with no criminal history, and called for EMTs. He never fought us, never spoke another word except that same phrase, muttered like a prayer. They said they would come through. That should have been the end of it, a mental breakdown. A strange crime scene, maybe some cult nonsense, but things only got stranger from there. The EMTs loaded Caldwell onto a stretcher, but when they tried to wheel him down the hallway, every light in the motel went out. Pitch black. Total silence, power outage, Hendrix muttered. The clerk shouted from the front desk. Breakers are fine. I don't know what happened. Then from inside room 12 came a noise I will never forget. A wet, cracking sound like wood splintering under pressure, followed by a long, guttural moan. We aimed our flashlights back into the room and saw the wall bulge outward. It pulsed, slowly at first, then violently, as if something massive was pressing from the other side. The plaster cracked. Dust rained from the ceiling, and then we heard it, a voice, deep, distorted, and impossibly low. It came from inside the wall itself. Not ready. The room temperature plummeted. My breath fogged so thick I could barely see. Hendrix and I backed into the hallway, guns drawn, but what were we going to shoot? Drywall? Then Caldwell, strapped to the stretcher, now started laughing. A horrible, guttural laugh that didn't sound human. You're too late, he rasped. You opened it. Before we could respond, the bulge in the wall snapped inward. The plaster cracked like glass, a spiderweb of fractures racing across the surface. And then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The temperature normalized. The whispers ceased. The bulge flattened. Room 12 was just a room again. Forensics later found no evidence of tampering. No hidden compartments, no cavities, no hollow spaces. The symbols? No trace of blood.
The walls?
Untouched. Smooth. As if nothing had ever been scratched into them. Caldwell was admitted to a psychiatric facility. He never regained full coherence. But during one interview, months later, he muttered something that still chills me to the bone. They were testing the walls. They said it's thinner here. The Red Hollow Motel was demolished in 2009. Officially, the county claimed structural instability. Unofficially, I know for a fact they sealed off room 12 for almost 2 years before they touched the rest of the building. Why? Because 3 other people disappeared there before the demolition, all without signs of forced entry. All in rooms adjacent to 12, the case was buried. Caldwell was quietly transferred out of state, and any mention of structural anomalies was redacted from the incident report before it was archived. But here's the thing. Last year, during a training exercise, a rookie and I responded to a trespassing call at the site. The motel is gone now, just a patch of cracked foundation and weeds. But when I stood where room 12 used to be, I swear on my badge I heard it again, tap, 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 and underneath it, a single word whispered from somewhere deep below the concrete. Ready? I've been a police officer for nearly 2 decades, and there's one case I'll never speak of without glancing over my shoulder first. It happened during my 6th year on the force, and the official report, the one you'd find if you somehow got a court order to access it, is nothing but a few lines of procedural nonsense. But what actually happened that winter night inside, Cell 9 still haunts me to this day, and if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would swear it was an urban legend. The call came in at 1:47 a.m. A young woman, barefoot and disoriented, had been found wandering along the service road behind the freight depot on Route 19. The caller, a trucker, said she wasn't speaking, just muttering gibberish and walking in circles. I was on patrol nearby, so I arrived within 10 minutes, and sure enough, there she was, standing barefoot on the frost-covered asphalt, wearing nothing but a torn hospital gown. Her skin was pale, almost gray under the streetlight, and her hair was matted with mud and blood. "Ma'am," I called out gently as I approached, hands raised in a non-threatening way. "I'm with the police. Are you hurt?" She didn't respond. Didn't even look at me. Just kept mumbling to herself over and over the same 3 words. "Don't let them." I tried asking her name. Nothing. I asked if she needed medical help. Still nothing. But when I moved closer, her head snapped toward me so violently I heard her neck crack. And then, for the first time, she spoke clearly, voice low, trembling, but absolutely lucid. "They're almost here. We brought her into the station and booked her as a Jane Doe pending hospital transfer. The paramedic said she wasn't physically injured, just dehydrated and hypothermic. But they couldn't get her to respond to any direct questions. She wouldn't even look at anyone. Our department only had 6 holding cells, but we kept cell 9, an old converted evidence room, as overflow when the local jail was full. It wasn't used often, but it was clean, secure, and the cameras worked. We placed her there until mental health services could pick her up in the morning. I signed off on the paperwork, made sure the door was locked, and went back to my desk. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. At 3:12 a.m., the first incident occurred. Unit 3 to dispatch, came the call from our overnight deputy, Jenkins. Movement detected in cell 9. I switched to the CCTV feed. The Jane Doe was still standing in the center of the room, facing the corner. But something was off. Her shadow wasn't right. The overhead light was steady, but her shadow wasn't where it should have been. It was longer, stretching unnaturally toward the door, almost like it was reaching for it. "Jenkins," I said over the radio. "Is she moving?" "Negative," he replied. "Hasn't moved an inch." But as I stared at the monitor, the shadow slid along the floor like an oil slick until it reached the base of the cell door. Then it just stopped. I blinked. And suddenly the shadow was gone. Just like that. We chalked it up to camera distortion or maybe my tired eyes. But 15 minutes later, Jenkins called again, this time sounding more shaken. "Cell 9 again. You'd better see this." I ran to the monitors. The woman was no longer standing in the middle of the cell. She was now pressed flat against the far wall, face turned away from the camera. And she was talking, not mumbling, not whispering. Talking, in a low, steady voice, as if she were having a conversation with someone. But she was alone. I turned up the audio feed, and my blood went cold. She wasn't speaking English. I don't know what language it was, though it didn't sound like anything I'd ever heard. Harsh guttural syllables spoken rhythmically, almost like a chant. I sent Jenkins down to check on her. He approached the cell slowly, flashlight drawn, and called out to her through the door. "Ma'am, are you okay?" The chanting stopped. And then in that same clear, trembling voice from before, she answered, "Too late." The temperature in the station dropped so suddenly the HVAC system alarm tripped. Frost started forming on the inside of the cell window. Jenkins swore he could see his breath. I decided we were past the point of waiting for morning. I called dispatch to expedite the psychiatric unit's arrival, but before I could even hang up, the power died. All of it. The lights, the cameras, the backup generator. Total blackout. The entire station was plunged into pitch darkness. The kind of darkness you feel pressing against your eyeballs, and then, from the corridor leading to the holding cells, we heard it. A sound I will never forget. Click, click, click. Like fingernails tapping against metal. Slow, deliberate, coming closer. "Jenkins?" I whispered. "I'm here," he hissed back. "Glocks out. Safety off." We crept toward the cell block with flashlights drawn, beams cutting through the black. When we reached cell 9, the tapping stopped. The woman was gone. The cell was empty. Door still locked. No broken hinges, no loose bolts, just empty. I felt my heart slam against my ribs. There was nowhere she could have gone. The walls were reinforced concrete. The ceiling was sealed. There was no way out, and then Jenkins screamed. I swung my light toward him, and then there she was. Standing right behind him, not running, not lunging, just standing, inches from his back, staring straight into the flashlight with those lifeless gray eyes. "How?" Jenkins started, but before he could finish, she tilted her head and smiled. Not a big dramatic grin, just a tiny knowing smirk. Then she whispered something I still hear in my nightmares. "They're here." The power snapped back on. Alarms started blaring. The cell door was still locked, but the woman wasn't inside. And neither was Jenkins. I was standing in the hallway alone. Backup arrived minutes later. We combed every inch of the building, top to bottom, inside and out. No sign of either of them. No forced exits. No footprints in the fresh snow outside. It was as if both had ceased to exist. The official explanation was a catastrophic electrical malfunction and a possible abduction during the confusion. The department wrote Jenkins off as missing in action. Jane Doe was classified as an unknown transient, case unresolved, but I know what I saw, and I'm not the only one. 3 weeks later, an officer in a neighboring county reported a barefoot woman in a hospital gown wandering near an abandoned quarry. She was mumbling 3 words over and over, "Don't let them." The responding deputy approached her, but before he could make contact, she vanished. Right in front of him, his dashcam caught it. One frame, she's there. The next, she's gone. No cuts, no glitches. Just gone. Every year on the anniversary of that night, the motion sensor outside cell 9, which has been empty since we sealed it, goes off. Every time we check, the door is still locked, the room still empty. But the temperature inside? Always 30 degrees colder than the rest of the station. And sometimes, if you stand quietly enough on the other side of that door, you can hear her voice. Not mumbling this time. Not chanting, just 3 little words whispered so softly you could almost believe you imagined them. Too late now.